Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm finding out how many queens I need to beat the Martin bot. I have defeated this bot before with only a few pawns, but this is wildly different since I have one piece and only one piece to work with. I'll add one queen each game, but I really hope that I can win with just one. Let's get started with, well, I guess we can't play d4, so we'll play queen to d4 instead. Centralizing the queen, I have left the eval bar here on the side. Let me know if you guys prefer the eval bar on or off the board. I've also made a community post about this, so feel free to leave your thoughts down below. We get pawn to d6. I'm kind of hoping to just leave my queen somewhere in the center where it's nice and easy for him to blunder it. So for example, play g5 and drop the rook or something like that. d6 is unfortunately extremely solid. So let's play queen to e4 and see if we can maybe get a blunder on this diagonal, which we don't. We're instead met with pawn to c6. Okay, he's still playing extremely solid. I'm assuming he's looking for this check on a5. So I'm going to meet c6 with queen to a4. Okay, well, now we get g6. I'm wondering if I can play queen to a1. The idea being I want to cover a5 so my king doesn't get bothered by this queen check, but at the same time I'm targeting that rook and hoping that he won't notice that it's, free. So I'll play queen to a1. We do get pawn to e5. Holy moly, Martin playing like an absolute monster right now. Okay, I guess I'll just make a waiting move. I'm not really sure where the best place to put my queen is anymore. I guess the next natural move for Martin is to develop this bishop. So maybe I can play queen to b2. So after this bishop develops, I can take on b7. I'll play that, queen to b2. Okay, we get d5. Martin is doing an amazing job of just taking over the center. But unfortunately, he's hung this e5 pawn. Now, the issue with me actually taking this pawn is that if I take with check, queen to e7 skewers my queen, and I'd be forced to trade, so it's guaranteed that I wouldn't be able to win that. Unless, for example, if I took queen to e7 and then I dropped the queen back, unless Martin played some miraculous move like, I don't know, king to d8, for example. I could also hope that after queen takes e5, he intercepts with like bishop to e7 or knight to e7 so I can take the rook. But I'm not sure if it's worth it because after queen takes e5, like I said, queen to e7 and the challenge might as well be over. So I'm going to instead play king to d1. I'm not going to play king to f1 because I don't want to walk into like bishop to f, or rather queen to f6 or bishop to h3, activating his pieces while checking my king. But king to d1 I guess makes some sense. So then I'm actually threatening queen takes e5. So I'll play that, king to d1. Okay, we do get knight to f6. Now I can take on e5 with check, bishop to e7. And I think I'll just leave the queen here. If this knight moves anywhere, I pick up the rook. Obviously, can't move the bishop. I think my queen is doing just about as good as it can right in the middle of the board. So in the meantime, I'll move my king out of the center of the board. Okay, we get bishop to f5, which does weaken b7, which means I could play queen to b2 now. I think I'm going to go with that. Queen to b2. Okay, we get h5, which does give up b7. I just have to make sure that I shouldn't be afraid of anything after that. Right, because if Martin can just force a queen trade, like I said, the game is over. So I'll take on b7. Okay, queen to b6, which almost forces a queen trade, but we can pick up this rook. We do have to be careful of check, king here, check, king here, and it might be mate in a couple of moves there. But I think we've talked about this before, that Martin, as far as I can tell, can only see mate in 2 moves. So I should be okay to take. Okay, we do get check. I can only play king to d2. Uh-oh, he's given a lot of checks. I have 2 move options here, king to e3 and king to e2. I'm not completely certain that one is actually much better than the other. I guess king to e2 might be mildly better. That way my king is on a light square. So this bishop can't give any more checks. And maybe I can pick up this knight on b8. So I'll play king to e2, or rather king to e2. The cool thing about king to e3 is that then maybe I can run away with my king all the way down the board. I mean, I'll go all the way into his position if he allows me to. But king to e2 allows for queen to d3 check, and then my king just kind of hangs out here. Check with the knight. Looks a little bit scary. Okay, I'll play king to e3 instead. Okay, queen to e4 right away cuts off f4, so I have no choice but to move back. Check on e1. This is looking like it's going to be checkmate in a moment. Let's see, king to g2 and king to f3 are my only 2 options. Both of them walk into a bishop check. King to f3 at least gives me the hope of running back into his position. So I'll try king to f3. Okay, queen back to e4. I'll move back. Threefold repetition. Huh. Okay, we got a draw by threefold. Yeah, we got a draw by threefold repetition. It's not a win, and this channel's name is obviously I Want Checkmate, because I want checkmate. It's not I Want Draw, which one of you commented, which I thought was pretty funny on my last Gotham video. Okay, I guess we'll add an extra queen. Yeah, we'll do that. One more queen. Okay, we're back with 2 queens, which is a little bit disappointing, but at least we didn't lose with a queen. We got a draw. So we got a draw with 1 queen, and now with 2 queens, I should honestly be, you know, a little bit OP, a little bit overpowered against Martin. I'll start with queen to b3, targeting a mate, and then developing one of my queens. It's funny, the eval bar just, oh my goodness, the eval bar just flew all the way back up. My queens are extremely well coordinated. I'm sure this is the first queen that moves. Check. King here. Check. King forward again. Check. And there's got to be some way for me to walk the king down. King over. I'll play that. Queen takes. We'll lure the king out. We'll continue to lure him out. King comes out to the center. And what's the checkmate here? Like check here. Check here. There's got to be mate there somewhere. Check. Check. And mate. All right. It took us 2 queens to beat the Martin bot officially on our first run, but I really want to try with 1 queen one more time because I don't feel like I totally understood the strat the first time, and I think I understand it a little bit better now. Move the king out of the center of the board and just leave my queen in an optimal position until he blunders. So we're going to try with 1 queen one more time. Feel free, you guys, to try this challenge as well. If you guys find a way to do it, let me know. I'd love to know. This is like our little mad scientist research experiment. All right, I'll see you with 1 queen again. All right, we're back with 1 queen on the board, and I'm going to try a similar strategy. I'm going to play queen to d4 again, but this time I'm going to move my king out of the center a little bit earlier in the game. So let's see. Actually, I could also start with something different, like queen to g4. But I don't want my queen to be targeted on that first move. So I'll play queen to d4 again. We'll see what Martin plays. Okay, we get a6, which honestly is a lot more Martin than what we got on the first game, where he played d6, e5, centralized his pawn, started storming my king. Okay, queen I think is optimally placed right now for a blunder. Right, e5 is a blunder, g5 is a blunder. I guess knight to c6 would just kick my queen out, but I guess I could move it back. I'll play, actually maybe my queen would be better placed on b2. I'll leave her in the center for now. I'll move my king out of the way. We get c6, so these dark squares are getting a little bit weak, but it also clears the way for the queen, which I don't actually have a way to punish. So I'll continue to move my king out of the way. Okay, we get pawn to d6. He's looking to develop his bishop. Makes perfect sense. I think now I can play queen to b2. And the idea is keep an eye on this g7 pawn, keep an eye on this potential rook, and also hold down b7. If this bishop develops, I dive in again just like I did in the first game. So I'll play queen to b2. Yes, it happened. I knew it would happen. I knew it would happen. We get pawn to g5. And the reason I say I knew it would happen is because Martin is probably just programmed to make a certain number of mistakes, lose a certain number of centipawns each game. So g5 is a perfect way to do that. He looked at the board. He said, I have to blunder. It's not clear how else he could blunder, right? All of his pieces are undeveloped. What's the best way to blunder? Play g5 and give me the rook. And I love that it's the kingside rook. So I'll take on h8. And we do get check, so I have to be a little bit careful now. I assume my best move here is king g2, right? Can't give check here because of my queen. Can't give check here, obviously, because of my king. Can't develop the bishop with check, again, because of my king. And it looks like I should be okay. So I'll play king to g2. h6, that's the kind of Martin move I like to see. I think I can take the knight now, which does expose me to this check. But I'm sure I can find some way to finagle my way out of any big issues. Actually, can I? Queen takes, check. King g3 to stop the bishop from developing. Should be okay. So I'll take on g8. Okay, we get bishop development instead. Lines up this check on e4. So I'll go ahead and move my queen back to h8, so she actually has a way to get back into the game. I'll play queen to h8 now. Queen to e3. He's closing in on me now. I'm not sure that he knows how to give checkmate here, but I certainly can see that checkmate threats are looming in this position. So I'll develop my queen back to b2. I'm looking at b7. Maybe I could get like a lucky mate on c8 if this bishop moves out of the way. And also my queen is back within range to actually defend my king. So I'll play queen to b2. Okay, we get check. My only choices are f2 and g1. f2 loses to queen h2, so g1 is my only option, basically. Okay, we get g4. I'm sure the right thing to do here is keep the queen near the king, but it's also very tempting to just take on b7. Right, if this bishop moves to e4 looking for mate, boom, queen c8 is mate. Let's see, if I take and he gives check to move me to a light square instead, for example, king to f1, then bishop d3 is mate, and if king to h1, then queen g3 is mate. Or I'm sorry, if king to h1, bishop to e4 is mate. So if I take, it's forced mate in 2, no matter which way I move, which means Martin can probably see it. So instead I'll play queen to f2 and see if I can pick up this bishop. Play queen to f2. Nice, we get queen to a3, nice. I can pick up this bishop now with no fear of getting checkmated, and then I think I can dive to c8 for mate if he doesn't notice that. Most likely he'll play like knight d7 or e6 or something like that. But anyways, I'll pick up the bishop. We get check. Oh, this would be such a shame if I move my king to either one of these and he sees queen to f3, because then it's completely losing. Oh man, I'd have to give up my queen at that point. Or just move my king and hope and pray that somehow he doesn't take my queen, but I bet he would. Out of those two options, I like king to h1 best because it leaves on the table the opportunity to play queen to e1, which would get rid of that forced queen trade. So I'll play king to h1. Nice, yeah, see, we get queen to e1 check. I'll move my king up to h2. I could also move to g2. Check, king back, check, king here. Queen to f3 is still on the table, but it loses a pawn, although I guess that doesn't change very much. Okay, we'll play king to h2. Okay, queen to e2 check. I guess I can move back to h1. Okay, this might also end in a draw. King to h2. Okay, obviously the Martin bot wants to end this one in a draw as well. I could play king to g3. Now, I know that I could end this in a draw, so I will actively elect to not let this end in a draw, because I already let the first one end in a draw. I know that I can draw the Martin bot with one queen, but I want to beat the Martin bot with a queen. So instead of dropping the king back, I'll play the only other move, which is king to g3, and hope I can get this mate on c8, and hope that he doesn't realize that this completely ends the game for me. So I'll play king to g3, queen to e3 check. I could play king to g2, I could play king to h4. King to h4 check is mate, so I have to play back to g2. I can't play back to h2 because that would end up in threefold. So, I guess I could take this pawn too. I don't know why I was blind to this pawn. I could have taken this. If I take this pawn, queen to e6 stops the mate and skewers my, or rather pins my queen, which would be a definite trade. But there's also a lot of ways to continue giving check without me losing my queen. So I'll take on g4. Right, queen to d4 is also check. King to h5. Queen check, king back. Should be totally fine. We've now gotten rid of this g4 pawn. If king to h5 and queen to d5, again, the queen gets pinned. So I guess it makes more sense for me to go back to g3. We've reset the threefold repetition counter with this capture. So I'll go back to g3. Nice. That's what I'm talking about. Queen to h4 check is a free queen. We haven't won yet, but it's very much winning. Obviously, I can still blunder it, like queen f6, bishop e7. But it's very much winning now. I'll play queen to b1 to target this b7 pawn, which he does not even take a second look at, and I will take it. Okay, free rook. I take free rooks. King to e7. I take free pawns as well. Take on a6. What now? I can't take on d6 because of the bishop, but I can play queen to b7 and pin the knight. This is check. Okay, I'll move back. King to f6 drops the d7 knight. Drops the e7 bishop. Give me the pawn. Give me the pawn. Let me set that up. Now give me that pawn. Queen to e6. I'll walk my king over. That's fine with me. I'll take my sweet time. I'm taking all of your pieces. Queen over. I can't get a ladder's mate, but I can do the next best thing, which is check, cut off the king, and then walk my king over. All the way. I guess I could buy a tempo here. I want it to be like a very pure ladder's mate. Look at that. The king makes the fence, the queen drops to the back rank, and we do get checkmate. All right, we did defeat the Martin bot with only one queen. We took a lot of risks to get there, but we did it in the end. If you guys did enjoy this video, please consider liking and subscribing, and I will see you guys in the next one.